For the casuals, this isn't gonna be like a fun fight to watch.
Well, I guess some of us are casuals then. Welcome to Theories About Things, where I pitch my theories on why some things are the way they are. If you caught the main event at UFC 319 recently, and more importantly, the reactions to it, you've probably noticed that they've been, let's just say, polarizing. On the one hand, some people found Chimaev's performance to be a dominant masterclass worthy of endless praise, but on the other hand, many others found it to be a boring display of two grown men rolling on the floor for 22 minutes. As I let these reactions sink in, I got the feeling that I've seen this conflict before. And then it clicked. The NBA has it too. My theory is that the NBA and the UFC both have the same exact problem right now, which is that the dominant styles in both leagues are starting to turn some people off, and there's really no end in sight. I recently dropped a video that goes 10 times deeper into the current problems of the NBA than I'll get to here in this video. I'll leave the link for it in the description below. You'll find it interesting if you're into the NBA, as it takes an angle I don't think you'll hear that often. But one of the main problems I mention is that the NBA product has turned into a non-stop three-point shooting marathon, and that style of play has turned many viewers off. I'd argue that three-point shooting to the modern NBA is what grappling is to the UFC, as some viewers love it while others can't stand it. I'll actually make the case that these two styles are more comparable than you might realize, and that's why they're both unappealing to a not insignificant portion of American viewers. First, as I mentioned, this problem isn't going away anytime soon for either league. In basketball, due to the Steph Curry effect, this is just how basketball is played now, not just in the NBA, but everything leading up to it. Kids grow up fantasizing about shooting from the logo more than they do about dunking the ball. Youth basketball and college basketball rely heavily on the three-point shot. Modern analytics favors the three-point shot as well. NBA teams that play by analytics outright admit that their goal is to attempt as many threes as they can. There's no escaping it anymore. Three-point shooting is in the DNA of basketball now. In the UFC, 4 of the 8 current men's champions are grapplers, and it could be 5 very soon if Islam comes away with the welterweight belt later this year. Whether you like it or not, you'll be seeing three-point shooting every time down the court in the NBA and wrestling in most UFC title fights for the foreseeable future. Conventional wisdom would say that some American viewers are turned off by these styles because they deviate from tradition, and I would accept that as an argument for part of it. Tradition definitely has a lot to do with it. The point of basketball up until recently was to get as close to the basket as possible for a high percentage shot. Before the UFC, the dominant combat sport that most people watched was boxing, which is obviously purely striking, and it's no secret that boxing and the UFC have many overlap fans. But I'd argue that the distaste that American viewers have for these modern styles in each league has a deeper layer, and I think it's something that connects the two. Pay attention here because it's about to get technical in a sports nerdy kind of way. It seems apparent to me that the style of play that the American viewer tends to prefer is one where the finishing attempts are scarce and the result is forceful, and three-point shooting and grappling are both the opposite of that. I know that sounds confusing right now, but I'll explain what I mean. In basketball, the three-point shot is a low percentage shot. A shooter who makes just 35% of their three-point shots would be considered a good shooter, while a dunk or a layup is easily an 80% or better shot. But that's just it. A three-point shot is a low percentage shot to make, but it's a relatively easy shot to attempt, especially in today's game with the James Harden steps.
You got it. That's travel. What?
It went in. No.
Yeah. So because it goes in, it's not travel? That's clearly traveling. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. This ain't no dance class.
And just the general range today's players build into their games. On the flip side, a dunk is a near 100% shot to make, but getting to the attempt of a dunk is extremely difficult, much more than attempting a three-point shot. And that's what I mean. That's the style of competition that American viewers favor because they see it as more challenging, and no one else will say it, but also more masculine. The American viewer would rather see athletes attempt something more difficult to achieve less often then something prolific that's repeated over and over with little resistance since there's no drama there. That's why most people would be more captivated seeing a 30-yard completion down the field in football than a running back getting the same 30 yards on 4 consecutive 8-yard runs. In basketball, the American viewer values a game more where players are trying to get into the paint and finish at the rim because the attempt is more scarce, therefore it's a more challenging style of play than it is to just step back and launch basically wide open threes. It requires more strength, speed, and risk to a player's body to drive into the paint where the defense is denser to try to finish at the rim than it does to run to the three-point line to shoot a barely contested three. The same concept can be applied to striking versus grappling in the UFC. While grappling is difficult in its own right, in terms of getting to a finish, it's the easier attempt. A fighter gets to grab any of a number of body parts in order to get a controlling position, and then can target a handful of different body parts for a submission. To finish by striking, a fighter has to land a very precise liver shot or a clean shot to the head. That's it. A strike anywhere else isn't going to finish a fight. If a fighter is lucky enough to land a clean, well-placed shot, the fight is most likely over right there. But the attempt of that kind of shot takes timing, precision, footwork, and even some luck, and the opponent has plenty of advantages to avoid it. In grappling, any part of a fighter's body can be grabbed and any part can be submitted. This was perfectly illustrated during the main event of UFC 302 between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier. To Islam's credit, he engaged in striking for 4 rounds, but like I mentioned, the attempt to finish through striking is much more difficult. So while both fighters took some damage, neither got the finish through 4 rounds of striking. Then, in the 5th round, Islam was able to grab a hold of Poirier's ankle of all things and turn it into a Darce choke a few seconds later to finish the fight. I strongly believe that deep in the psyche of the American sports viewer, they want to watch competition where the attempt to get to the finish is difficult and scarce and therefore valuable, and the finish itself is forceful. A knockout punch by definition is forceful, as is a monster dunk at the rim, and they're both viewed as challenging to even attempt. The American viewer isn't captivated by watching players launch 3 after 3 with no resistance, or fighters grabbing any body part they can get their hands on and then just pressing up against each other on the floor for 20 minutes. But that's the situation that both the UFC and the NBA find themselves in, and it seems like it's here to stay. In defense of both leagues, I don't think either league ever intended on this happening. When the UFC started, I think they just wanted to get 2 fighters in a cage with as few rules as possible in order to be entertaining and to satiate people's appetite for watching people tear each other apart. I don't think they could have ever predicted that different disciplines of mixed martial arts would develop in such an advanced way all over the world, and that wrestling would dominate like this. I don't think the NBA could have foreseen that a shot that was considered difficult and a last resort for most of its history would become a shot that all 10 players on the court could knock down with ease all game long. Now both leagues find themselves between a rock and a hard place. Many viewers are not only turned off by this modern product, but are actually turning it off for good. Both leagues could change their rules to make their products have a broader appeal, but that would ruin the integrity of each sport. What's left is to just hope that they can come across athletes that do it the old-fashioned way, and that those athletes rise to the tops of their leagues. In order to stay in business, both leagues need casual viewers to tune in, not just purists. If the solution is, if you don't like it, just watch something else, and viewers actually select that option over time, eventually there isn't going to be anything for anyone to watch. That's how business works. But for now, the current state of either league isn't going anywhere. So at least for now, the answer actually is learn to like it or watch something else. Speaking of watching something else, hello, I'm right here. Go check out my other videos and remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Also, follow me on Instagram and X, and I'll see you in the next one.